Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Butterfly Effect podcast. Today we are going to be talking about episode 3 of The Wolf Among Us, titled A Crooked Mile. Joining me, I have Liam.
Hello.
And of course, Liam's brother Luke.
So I can't be Anya.
How dare you stand where he stood?
So lads, we know how this goes. We'll dive in with the choices. We'll let the conversation go from there. We'll visit other points in the episode as and when. So, I'm going to just jump straight in with this first choice. Very heavy scene towards the start of this episode. Of course, it's the funeral of Holly's sister Lily. And the first choice is whether we interrupt Snow's eulogy or not. We'll start with you, Luke. What did you do?
I waited for Snow to finish, just because the whole rush of finding Snow was to make sure she was safe. And in that particular moment, she was safe. So I didn't really get a sense of urgency. So I just let her finish, which I think was the right thing to do.
Yeah, for me, same here. I was like, well, she's safe, so I'm happy to stand in the background, let her finish. Funny enough, though, I watched a playthrough earlier today to brush up on this, and the person whose playthrough I looked at interrupted. And it's quite interesting to see what happens if you interrupt the eulogy.
Oh, go on, tell us, mate, 'cause to be honest, I didn't interrupt either, and I was hoping one of you two did interrupt. So what does happen if you interrupt?
Yeah, basically, Lily just goes really hostile, just goes, you have no right being here, and blows up at you, and pins you in a corner, like, oh yeah, so why are you here? And then you have to let it out, okay, I think I know who killed Lily. And then she proper is in your business, like, I deserve to know. I don't know if it gets there anyway, but yeah, you just get a really hostile Lily, which I thought was really interesting.
Oh, fair. And before we jump into the next choice, of course, this is perhaps one of the most important scenes in the entire episode, really. It's certainly what stands out to me, even after playing it yesterday. It's the first thing I think of when I think of this one. But then have this little bit of showdown, don't we? The Tweedle brothers turn up, and you're caught in the middle between a bit of bickering. Of course, they're trying to have a nice sentimental occasion for Lily. And they're there with shotguns and they're, aggravating people. What I wanted to ask you guys, because I don't know, again, it's all pretty fresh to me, what the branching is on this, if there's any at all. But so for example, in my game, I got shot in the shoulder. Holly got shot as well. I'm pretty sure somebody else got injured from, remember, a conversation later on. But I just wondered, is that bit, can the choices you make in that particular section when they're both bickering, and it actually differ in the outcome, or does it always work the same way?
In terms of that conflict, I can't remember any branching, but I do think that if Prince Lawrence is alive, he's at the funeral, if we're on about branching. I seem to remember that.
But now, otherwise, I think it has to lead to the fractured shoulder where you see Dr. Swinehart later. So I think it is pretty linear. The playthrough I saw, the guy was really chaotic, so really aggravated the Tweedle brothers anyway. I don't know if there's any differentiation if you can kind of be nice to them and then play by what they want. I'm unsure on that end, but yeah, like I say, I had a hostile playthrough where it led to the big blow up anyway.
Oh, fair enough. Because it was one of them moments where I was thinking, I wonder if any choices that I made could have differed, more so. Sort of less so for Big B because of the scene afterwards. But, fair enough. I'm going to roll on to the next choice, which for me personally, I was actually in the minority. 26% I've got written down here. And it's the choice where you choose where you're going again. But of course, this time we've got 3 options. Whether we go to the trick trap to try and find out about, Lily and the witch that way, or we go to Crane's apartment. Oh, I just knocked my mic then. Whether we go to Crane's apartment, or whether we go to the office of the Tweedle brothers. Luke, starting with you, where did you go first?
First off, I just love there's an extra element to this one, and that is that Bluebeard goes to the one you don't go to. And this is really interesting to me because I didn't choose it based on where I wanted to go, but where I didn't want Bluebeard to go. So I was I tried to not go to the one that I felt Bluebeard could cause the less damage at. So I didn't go to the Tweedledee and Dum's office, because my theory was if Bluebeard goes there, finds them, and then causes like chaos, that probably is the best place for that chaos to happen. So I went to Crane's house first.
So honestly, like, it was such a long time ago, we're talking like a decade here, that I really do not remember. However, the playthrough that I watched went to the Trip Trap. Now, I kind of looked at some things online, and they say that, like, you know, like, there's a lot of dead ends in the other two, so I feel like the majority of players do go for the Trip Trap, because it seems to be that the consensus is that that is the most beneficial one to go to first. Because I think, like, going to one place leads to, like, burned evidence where Crane can go. No, not Crane, Bluebeard, where Bluebeard can go. So yeah, I guess like Trip Trap does seem to be the best option, but you know, like, it does look like there are some interesting bits about going to other places first. How about you, Jack?
That's quite reassuring then, because I went to the Trip Trap first, and yeah, you do get this whole scene where you're talking to Gren, and like him and Woodsman start having a flare up, and Holly's sleeping out back. You do find a couple of things. And I think the reason I went is because I was just convinced by what Snow was saying about sort of going to like the victims' belongings and stuff like that. I just had a feeling that if I went to Crane's, we wouldn't find him there. It would be too easy and it would be a bit of a dead end. That was my prediction. But actually, when I got to Crane's, and I thought back and I was like, oh, Bluebeard said he was going to go here. And then you find burnt things. I was thinking to myself, like, oh, so if I went here first, maybe these things wouldn't have been burnt. And that could have been useful later on. So I was actually for a little while thinking that I made the wrong decision there. And then, yeah, naturally I went to the Tweedle Brothers office last, which I don't recall finding all that much, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm guessing that doesn't necessarily matter then, that choice.
I mean, I'm reading here, actually. If you go to Crane's apartment first, Luke, did you do that?
Yeah, I did this because I was just going to say, when I got to Crane's first, I found Jack robbing the place. So I guess you didn't get that, Jack. As in fictional Jack, not...
Yeah, I wasn't robbing the place.
He's an NPC, so I get what I can.
Jack, we have a mansion now. We don't need to be robbing things.
You get there and Jack's robbing the place, and then like you stop him and Jack gives you the name of Auntie Greenleaf. Now, I don't know what you... Sorry, Liam. Right. It's just like, Liam's got a sore throat. That's really thrown me. Where was I? So he gave me the name of Auntie Greenleaf. I don't know what you... So I went to the Trip Trap second. Sorry if I'm doing this out of like a weird order for your channel. I went to the Trip Trap second and I got an address. And I got a name from Jack. Now, I don't know if you do them in the opposite order, you get something else. I'm trying to think what could have been burnt, Jack. And I found evidence that Crane was like embezzling funds to the Crooked Man. That might have been what Bluebeard burnt, because he seems like the sort of guy that would destroy that evidence.
It was in a fireplace, and it was like a book. I'm pretty sure it was a book of some kind, and then like a mirror. You didn't get the opportunity to explore the environment. So, is it when you went into Crane's apartment, was you able to walk around and pick things up and stuff? Because for me, it was basically a cutscene.
Yeah, so I wandered around and I found a love letter to Snow that obviously he wrote ages ago and never sent. I found some money he was going to give to the Crooked Man. I found a voicemail from Bloody Mary telling him that he needs to pay up. And then I found Jack sneaking out the window, and then it becomes a cutscene.
Oh, fair enough. Because, I mean, it seems then that you always get the stuff at the Trip Trap. So, judging them by what you said, maybe it was right to go to Crane's first. I don't know. I mean, part of me was thinking about going there, because obviously we've been to the Trip Trap a couple of times already, but hey-ho, I made my choices. But, of course, I did go to Thingy Majiggy's last. What's their names? The Tweedle Brothers. And we run into another character called Flycatcher, who's just doing a little bit of cleaning, and that comes to our next choice. I'm guessing this doesn't really mean a lot, but whatever, I'll throw it at you anyway. and you get the opportunity to offer him a job. So we'll start with you, Liam. Did you offer Flycatcher a job?
I'm pretty sure I would have. I mean, I get like he's in the villain's place, so like maybe like there's a reason not to, but yeah, like I'm pretty sure from memory he has a few minor things in the last 2 episodes if you do give him the job. So I think it's like really minor, but it's still cool to see that it's not a nothing choice like the Expanse has. But otherwise, yeah, like no, I gave him the job.
I never went to Tweedledee's place. I think you can go to 2. And then the third one, unless I spent too long nosing around at Crane, so I ran out of time, I just left Bluebeard to that. So I never met this Flycatcher fellow. I spent my time talking to Jack. And you can offer Jack a deal that you would not mention that he's robbing the place if he gives you Auntie Greenleaf's name. And I gave Jack that deal, but then dobbed him into Snow White like straight afterwards. So I don't know if that's going to affect me later on. But yeah, no, never went to Tweedledee or Tweedledum's place.
What's interesting is that if you go to the office last, he's beaten up, I believe. So I think Bluebeard gets a hold of him and doesn't trust him. So by going to the office first, you can actually kind of save Flycatcher. Like he doesn't die or anything, but like Bluebeard will beat him up.
Damn, that's quite. I know. I mean, because obviously I know that they're basically serving the same role, that being Jack and Flycatcher, like telling you about the name of Auntie Greenleaf. But I think that's quite smart. Because the thing is, when you're going to these places, it does come up with a little time, doesn't it? Saying you've got X number of minutes until the meeting. So, like I said, I don't know if that's played a part there, but it's quite nice that even though that there is basically the same function, that you do get that variation. Because I assumed that everyone would get to visit all 3 locations. So,
well, episode 3 is interesting for interactiveness because it kind of tells the same story no matter how you do it. But there's so many different journeys you can get to the same spot, and some people might say like that's bad interactive gaming because no matter what you do, you always end up at the witch's place and then at the you find Crane. But I actually think that's really good interaction because I could play this game like how many different I could go to each location once like the first time, and then I could play it again while I go to each location the second time. So that's 6 different versions of this level, which I think is really cool.
Absolutely. I mean, we're going to move on to the 4th choice, which I'm going to take like host privilege here because I think I'm going to have to say what I did right off the bat. But the 4th choice is whether or not you burn the tree. Now, obviously, as we all know, there's a bit of an ongoing joke on this channel that I hate trees. And I lived up to my expectations there. I burnt that fucker. So what about you guys? Did you burn the tree?
I can see, like, even when Auntie Greenleaf pretends to be a child, there's, like, literally no dialogue. You just walk up to a tree and burn it. Go, oh, was that important?
Yeah.
This is actually one of my favourite choices in the whole game because it's really interesting. And I was having a conversation with someone before this episode about, like, they said it was a bad choice because it doesn't actually affect the game until, like, you kind of almost character analyze your Bigby in episode 5. But I think that actually, even though it doesn't have any relevance to the story, it's actually quite interesting because on one hand, this tree is being used to basically make black market glamours, and as the Snow White situation proved, actually a lot of evil can be done. However, Auntie Greenleaf isn't really a villain. She's just someone trying to hold down a job, even though, as Fabletown has like proven, it's actually quite a hard place to like hold a job down. And also, Snow White isn't necessarily burning down the tree for the right reasons. You can tell that she's in like quite a dark place, and she almost becomes the Bigby character for this scene. So I think it's such an interesting choice because there isn't really a right answer.
No, I know what you mean. It's one of those ones where, like, you know, you could go on this path of being this big bad wolf, and Snow is kind of like the angel on your shoulder who kind of is a bit of a mediator, tries to make you take the high road a lot. And in this one, she's gone the opposite way. She's like, burn the tree. And you can either follow her, which, by the way, is what I did. I'm pretty sure when I first played it, I was like, yeah, because I kind of had a mindset of like, we need to destroy fake glamour because this could fuck me up in later scenes. There could be someone, you know, who isn't who I think. So I just wanted to destroy every trace of false glamour. So I was like, yeah, I need to burn this tree down. But yeah, like, to be honest, I kind of forget the significance of kind of keeping, you know, burning the tree or not burning the tree, because I think Greenleaf appears at the trial at the end, and I think whether you burn it or not can affect, you know, like a little outcome or her stance. So it's nice that, you know, whether it's a major or minor choice, like, you know, there's still just major branching back in these TellTale games, which was just a lot more sophisticated than they are now.
So I didn't burn the tree. And there are definite vibes between me and Snow now. Like, Snow and Bigby have not fallen out. It doesn't like affect the gameplay, but a little bit like how we mentioned, like in The Expanse, sleeping with Maya or not sleeping with Maya, it should just like slightly change the relationship. That's kind of what's happened here with Wolf Among Us. Like, I'm interacting with Snow, and there's like just this frosty layer to it now.
You know what? I think it's a little bit similar for me as well, but I think that's because of something I did later on in this episode. Talking about this choice, yeah, it's like, I think there's something about me and just like old school TellTale games. I think maybe it's like off the back of The Expanse as well, where I basically played Mr. Nice Guy, but there's just something about these old school TellTale games where I do just let rip. And like, I was just looking at this woman, and like you were saying, Liam, like, I just had this sort of like no loose ends mentality, you know, just like this ruthless cop. I was like, no, you know, you tried tricking me with the glamour. You're trying to talk me around because you know you're in a bad position. And, you know, it's just one of them situations where I was like, you know what, I'm going to stick to my guns here and just burn this tree down. I think as well, it would have just been a great way to wrap up the scene visually as well. So, yeah, it's good to know though, because I can't remember what happens with this particular choice, but it's good to know that there is some sort of repercussion from it going forward into episode 5. But yeah, I mean, we've rolled on to the final choice, lads. We've got a bit of a fight of a breakout in the alleyway, and we get the choice whether we get to kill Tweedledum or not. So I'll start with you, Luke. Did you kill him?
Yeah, I killed him. So
Yeah.
I've put myself into a bit of a dead end here, because I said at the start of like this analysis that I was going to start off like really bad cop and slowly become a good cop. But I feel the game is designed that by the end of it, you need to be bad cop. And I just was like, I need to take one villain off the board. And the idea of taking one of the twins off the board was very important to me. I feel like the game, if I was playing it again and trying to get a perfect run, I would start off Mr. Nice Cop and slowly become more evil. But now I kind of find myself in a position where I started bad and now I have to continue to be bad to get the job done.
Yeah, like for me, I mean, I killed Tweedledum as well, and it's sort of two reasons. I mean, yeah, the thing you mentioned about getting rid of one villain, I feel like these guys are an absolute threat. You know, I was very case-minded. I was like, I wanted to get this case solved, and I feel like eliminating one of these villains is really key here because, I mean, they're twins, you know, they're slippery, you know, like, we know how dangerous they can be, you know, like, they rocked up at the eulogy, like, one of them can even kill, like, Prince Lawrence, you know? So I was like, yeah, I kind of need to kind of, like, get rid of a threat here. But also, I think, like, I was kind of backed into the decision a little bit by the fact that at the eulogy earlier, we had a little rare moment where for the whole game, it's been, like, everyone versus Bigby other than maybe Snow, right? So like the moment that like the town kind of is with you and you've got like Grendel and Lily, who at one point, you know, were really hostile against you, and they were kind of on your side and they were kind of like going against the twins, not to back you because you're Bigby and, you know, they liked you, but because, you know, out of respect, and you kind of, I felt like I was on their side. So I almost felt when I killed Tweedledum, I almost sort of had the backing of, like, you know, the town in a little way. I don't know if that sounds like a dumb, far-fetched reason, but, you know, it's kind of what I was thinking. How about you, Jack?
Well, it's a hat trick because I killed him as well. Honestly, like you guys said, it's just one of them things, like Bloody Mary's shown up, that's another villain. So you're thinking, well, take it. But coming back to what you were saying before, Luke, about the relationship with Snow, she seemed pretty darn pissed at me doing that. So for a split second or so, I was like, oh, like, I wonder how this is going to go moving forward. But you know, when you do break out into the fight and you become full wolf, and you know it's chaos everywhere, she did then come up to me like after I got shot by a Bloody Mary or something. So it can't be all bad, but nonetheless, yeah, it is definitely frosty because I'm towing that rope. Like certain choices I'm making, I'm good cop, but then other ones I'm like absolutely ruthless and violent and such. So it does make it for an interesting gameplay though. I think sometimes you do need more of the savage options because it just, you know, it feels more realistic and it feels like it's, you know, just better gameplay really.
And again, I think this is something that Supermassive you don't get a lot of, because in Supermassive there is like almost this expectation you have to play a perfect game. And I think that stops you from being as chaotic with your characters. Whereas in TellTale, you know, if you want Drummer to be like this horrible captain, you can do it. If you want Bigby to be like this crazy cop, you can do that. If you want like Lee and Kenny to go off and be like best mates and then throw all of the other survivors under the bus in The Walking Dead, you can do that. And it does affect the story, but it doesn't penalize you for doing that.
It is true, because I'm the first to admit that I'm the person that will like try and keep everyone alive first playthrough, but then on the flip side I do then like the freedom. Once you've got that first playthrough out the way, you sort of take a deep breath and you go, right, now I'm going to go and have the fun. Now I'm going to like purposely get killed off and see what decisions like really do matter. But you are right, the linearity of the TellTale games, it does help some ways because you can feel a little bit less guilty about certain choices you make, like when you're going for a dickhead playthrough or something like that. But I mean, guys, that's the end of the choices. Have you guys got any notes on like any other points in the episode you want to talk about?
But oh yeah, and just the fact that when Bloody Mary takes you out at the end, she does it with the woodsman's axe, and I'm kind of there left thinking like, is the woodsman a part of this? Like, how did she get the axe? So there's all these little questions that just jot around your brain, and it's just littered with all these little intricacies that I really love. And when we like go to like, you know, because the scene doesn't really have a choice, thus we haven't mentioned it as far as like you know, you go back to the pudding and pie where there's the pimp, and you ultimately find Crane, and you know, at one point you're like, okay, well, is he the big bad villain? Is Crane the one we're looking out for? But it turns out he's just like this lovesick puppy who's a bit of a pervert, and then he might not necessarily be connected, but then Bloody Mary tries to save him. So the story isn't answered, and there's just constant questions like any good sort of mystery or case thing should do. And it's not so easy to put two and two together in this game, and I absolutely love that. There's all these little breadcrumbs that keep you guessing. And then obviously, as we know, you've got a 2-month wait between episodes. And I just thought, like, this game was written so fucking well.
Yeah, like, to be honest, because you know what I was going to say, like, at the end of episode 2 is really gearing up as a potential criticism. I was saying, oh, you know, revealing Crane as the big bad this early, I'm not sure about it. I think it should have been further on. It is only after playing episode 3 that certain things are starting to come back to me about, like, you know, my first playthrough and who the big bad is, or at least what they look like. So the fact that, yeah, like Crane is a little bit more, well, he's not really in a chain of hierarchy, is he? Obviously he's in a position of power, but, you know, he's not like the big bad that's, you know, got the Tweedle brothers running around after everyone. You know, I think that was definitely a good decision, because I was almost ready to be like, oh, it's come too early. But, you know, it didn't do that, and that's all to like the writer's credit. So, yeah.
I think we need to talk about Bloody Mary a bit, because what a villain. I mean, like, the thing with Wolf Among Us is, like, you've got the Tweedledees and Tweedledums, and, like, you don't quite know where Georgie is yet. And then, obviously, Crane, as we've just mentioned, we have no idea what to think of him. And there's this big villain that we don't even know, we can't put a face to. So the Bloody Mary becomes that cool villain that we could look at and go, that person's bad. There's no mystery there. We just have a villain. And as much as I loved like this series up to this point, I do remember the first time I played it getting real excited that we had this addition to the game now. Bloody Mary's a fantastic baddie.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Just everything about it, from the look to the chilling voice, even the way that, like, up until now, you could probably argue, like, the Tweedle brothers are working for someone, but you don't necessarily know who, but they're almost like the villains at this point. And the fact that she comes in between both of them, cuts them off when they're trying to speak, and just completely, like, shatters them down to these minuscule figures. And, just completely takes the spotlight of being, like, the main villain in a way. Although, there's still this crooked man that we yet to discover, which just, adds even more to the mystery, which I absolutely love. So now I've got to basically sing the praises to that one as well. I think she's a really good character.
Good to have a female antagonist as well, because obviously we know, like, if you're sort of looking at parallels, it's very much Bigby Snow, isn't it? There's like the team that are heading this up, and then you've got a world of pretty grey characters that you can't quite figure out whether they're good or bad. But then obviously you're paralleling that against, say, the Crooked Man and obviously now Bloody Mary, and obviously, the Tweedle brothers are alongside that as well, just as a bit of muscle. So yeah, like, again, it feels very balanced, and coming back to, the Expanse and stuff, it just feels like that, how, like, you can say with, like, the Expanse, it's like you could almost, like, each episode is its own, like, little story per se, and it all seems a little bit fumbled together. The Wolf Among Us feels a little bit more organic, like things just flow from one thing into the next quite nicely, and it just, even with the 2-week gaps, it feels like that I was getting lost with the Expanse, whereas I feel like with Wolf Among Us, especially with the previously trailers and obviously the next time trailers, it really does help the player to position themselves before they go into the episode with what they're going to face, and basically, remember the events that have gone previously. So yeah, I'm completely in agreement on that front.
Following on from that point, Jack, I have to agree with you on how these episodes are structured. And I can't remember if I said this last episode, but if you do an episode ranking, I am going to have to abstain from that video because I wouldn't know where to begin ranking them. They work together as like one big story. And I don't think you can say that one episode is better than the other because they all do their job perfectly. Like, it stitches together as this wonderful jigsaw so smoothly that it's so hard to have a preference.
Yeah, no, I'm fucking dreading doing that one.
Yeah, it's crossed my mind even after playing these 3, because I'm really in a position of, I really like the first one, just like the introduction to the world, but then the second one, you've got like the more detective elements, you've got the massive cliffhanger, but then this one, like, it's got its own thing as well. So yeah, it is going to be really hard.
Yeah, to summarise, Jack robbed a house and then burnt an old lady's tree.
Ruby, fucking hell.
Oh god, what's she done?
No, she just fell off the table and, like, used me as, like, a landing mat, so, like, my hand's fucking bloody as fuck now, but that's so good.
And on that, we are going to wrap up. Yeah, guys, do let us know what your thoughts are in the comments. Of course, let us know your choice as well. Did you burn down the tree? Did you kill Tweedledum? We'll look forward to replying to them, and we will see you next Sunday for episode 4.
See you then, guys.
Bye.